YouTube. It is your girl Ayana, aka the Crafty Notary, and I'm back with another video. As you can see back there, I got a list of videos to do and no time to do them. So let's get started today. As you see by the title, we will be talking about how to use two credible witnesses as a form of identification for anything you're doing, general notary work, loan signing, whatever it is. Typically on loan signings though, they have to have ID for the lender. So basically we're talking about general notary work today, okay? Before we get started, if you didn't see the short, look at that. If you didn't see the short video that I posted a few hours ago, make sure you sign up for the mock loan signing class, which will be taking place this Sunday, September the 18th at 7 p.m. The class is now just $25. Make sure that you do sign up for the class. You're going to go to ayanalugo.com, click on coaching, toggle over to courses, and it is there for you. There were only 20 or 25 seats available in the class. We probably got half of them already sold up. And I keep the classes a little bit smaller just so I can answer questions during the live Q&A. So if you want to know everything about how to conduct a loan signing from A to Z, how to market yourself, how to get out there, how to do it, what to say, what the documents look like, how to describe the documents when you're signing, this is the class for you. This course is not to get certified. This is just my way of showing you how to conduct an actual loan signing. So please sign up for the class, and that way you'll be ready when the next rush season does come. If it ever comes back, it should, because real estate is cyclical. So we probably won't have it the way we had it during the pandemic, but you'll know what to do to keep your business alive. All right, so on to the video. Earlier this week, I had a general notary work appointment where I needed to use two credible witnesses to verify the signer. This typically will happen for you, I would say, when your signer is either in a nursing home or the hospital and they don't have their ID readily available. It can also happen when someone moves from one state to this state and they don't have ID for whatever reason. So when they don't have ID, you have to go through the credible witness process. Now, there are two ways to use credible witness. The first way is with one witness, and then the second way is with two witnesses. So we will be focusing on the two witness process, and I will show you the documentation that we use in order to document two credible witnesses. Also, I want to mention that if you were in my book club that happens on Wednesdays, didn't happen this Wednesday. I had a little bit of a medical situation, emergency situation. So didn't happen this Wednesday, but we'll be back next Wednesday. And we actually went over this in the class. So if you go back a couple of days on the book club, you will see this information too. So when is a credible identifying witness needed? So I'm reading right from the Florida Primer, which again is a book that you should have. The NNA sells these for just about every state. They don't have every state, but just about every state. And since I cater to the state of Florida, you should have this for the state of Florida. So when a document signer is not personally known to the notary and is not able to produce or present reliable identification documents, that signer may be identified through the oath or affirmation of one or two credible identifying witnesses. Now, the key word here is that they're not able, how did I get back on? They're not able to present identification documents. So this is not when they left their ID at home or they simply lost the ID. Well, I guess it could be they lost the ID if it would cause an extreme hardship or it is very difficult or near impossible to get another piece of identification. So this is when you use credible identifying witness. And reading on, the qualifications and identification, it says, every credible identifying witness must personally know the document signer. If there is only one credible witness to identify the signer, that witness must also know the notary personally. So that's why we're not covering one witness. But it is possible that I have a friend who knows someone else who needs notary work. I don't know them, but I know the person in the middle. So they know the person and I know the person. So it can happen, but that's not what we're talking about today. All right. So if there are two credible witnesses available to identify the signer, these witnesses need not be personally known to the notary, but must be identified through acceptable identification documents listed under the ID document cards. So if there are two credible witnesses, it is not necessary for the notary to know them. However, we must properly identify them as for who they are using our identification method. So the same ID we would use to ID the signer is the ID we would use to ID the two witnesses, okay? Now, to ensure truthfulness, the notary must obtain a sworn written statement from each credible identifying witness that the person signing the document is the person named in the document and that the signer is personally known to the witness. All right. And then the sworn statement. Oh, no, we're not reading about one witness. All right. Let's see. If there is space on the document, the credible identifying witness's statement may be typed on the notarized document itself. If the statement is on a separate sheet of paper, the notary should keep it for his or her record. The following wording is suggested for one credible identifying witness, and then it has wording for two credible identifying witnesses. All right, so, and then it has the wording here. Now, then it also goes on to say the notary also will record the name and address and signature of each credible identifying witness. The notary should also indicate how the witness was identified. So what ID did you use, either by the notary's personal knowledge, which we're not talking about, but through acceptable identification. And then the notary must indicate on the certificate the method used to identify the signer. So to indicate upon credible identifying witness or witnesses, the notary should select the phrase produce identification, and after type of ID produce, write in credible identifying witnesses, okay? And then a notary may then notarize the signature, but should take extra care to avoid any problems. As with any notarization, the notary must determine the signer's willingness to sign and whether or not the signer understands the purpose of the document. So you are not absolved from that. So at the bottom of this document is the wording here for the credible identifying witness, and it actually continues over here. It has the actual notary certificate. You can have this information over here created into a stamp, and or you can use a permanent adhesive sticker. All right, that can be used as long as you don't place the sticker over any wording, and it is permanent adhesive, meaning it cannot be pulled off without tearing up paper. Then you can use that. So this can be put into a stamp form and stamped directly onto the document that you are notarizing it itself. But you need to make sure that this notarization here, this second notarization, is the notarization, is the notarial certificate for the actual witnesses. So this is not notarizing the document. This is a notarial certificate notarizing the statement that the witnesses have placed, that the witnesses have sworn to know the actual signer. So I am going to show you the actual certificates that you would be using. Let me move this over here so that I can share the whole screen in case something opens up in another window. Screen 2, boom, it's there. There we go. So this is the website, notaryflorida.com. And then you're going to click on resources here and it brings you to this page. It's called the Useful Forms and Documents, Useful Form Documents and Links. And if you go here, you can use these certificates. They comply with the law that changed last year in January 2020. And there's different versions. So the loose certificates is where you download the form, fill it out, and attach it to the document if there is no embedded certificate within the document. If you have to use a loose certificate, make sure you reference the information to the loose certificate, which it will associate it with the applicable document, should it become detached. See the imprinted version to incorporate the notarial certificate into a document for a better solution. All right, so the imprinted version is where you download the form, print it on a blank sheet, or print directly to your document such that the notarial certificate appears at the bottom of the page with adequate space. This will embed the certificate onto your document. The notary will then take the signer's acknowledgement, blah, 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 fill it out, blah, blah. The affidavit and forms you download and print, fill out the form, which is self-contained. Watch out for the correct notarial certificate at the bottom. All right. So the imprinted version is a great way to imprint the certificate right onto your sheet. So you got jurats and then you got acknowledgments on each side. So jurats are typically used if you need to provide a sworn statement attesting to the facts. All right, and then the acknowledgement is typically used when you need to have your signature verified to be from the person named in the document. So, or if you're agreeing to some condition or action that you have done or be required to do. All right. You got to remember, with a jurat, you must issue an oath or a sworn statement, or a swearing or an oath. No, an oath or affirmation. I'm like, what am I saying? An oath of affirmation. Acknowledgements do not require that. So we're going to go down here to the to credible witness. This is the certificate. But we want to first go to the to credible witness affidavit, which is here. And so this is the information that is in the notary primer on page 13 here at the bottom. And this is where they declare that the person appearing before me, you, the notary, so a Florida notary public, so this would be your name, is personally known to me as blank. This is the signer's name and is the person named in the document required notarization, that I believe that this person does not possess the required identification, and that I believe it would be difficult or impossible for this person to obtain such identification, and that I do not have financial interest in, and I am not or am not a party to the underlying transaction. Then the witness is going to date, they're going to sign, they're going to print their name and their address. Witness number 2 is going to do the same. Then you notarize this document. This is the affidavit that states they are taking an oath or an affirmation saying that they know the signer. So once they sign this information, you are going to give them the oath, which is simply, do you swear or affirm on the penalty of perjury that the statements made in this document are true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief? You're going to either say, I swear, or I affirm. Swearing is before God. Affirmation is on their own honor. Then you will notarize this document here. Okay? They will be by physical presence, the date, that blah, 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 and you're going to put by name, witness 1 who produced what ID, by witness 2 who produced what ID, sign, print, seal here. Okay? So this is the affidavit. Now, all of this information can be stamped onto the actual document if there is room for that. More than likely, there won't be room for all of this. Unless you got it really condensed down into a stamp form, and it probably would be pretty tiny. So I take the affidavit here. This affidavit, they're saying, should be kept by the notary. Right here. And so it says, if there is space, so this is the written affidavit statement, the written statement, and it says the notary should keep it for his or her records. All right. So in my case, I use an electronic journal. So what I did was I took a picture of this document for my journal, and then you can keep this as your own personal record. So I probably would, if you have a paper journal, I would probably staple this to the journal or something. I would keep this some kind of way. All right. Now, once you get to notarizing the documents, you have 2 ways to do that. You can do it by notarizing the document, and on the actual certificate of the document, you're going to write in the produce identification section, credible identifying witness. You will have the witness's affidavit, or you can use a loose certificate. So this is the loose certificate for a jurat because it's sworn to, subscribed before me this day by the signer whose identification was relied upon, sworn statement of 2 credible witnesses, witness number 1 who provided ID, witness number 2 who provided ID. Okay? I didn't have this with me when I did my actual notarization, so I wrote their names by credible witness, wrote their name, provided ID, wrote the other name, provided ID. But I think to cover all bases, I would much prefer to use this instead. Yeah, I would much rather use this, even though we shouldn't use loose certificates because they can become detached and lost. However, I like to make sure all my bases are covered. So you don't have to use a loose certificate when you're doing 2 witnesses, 2 credible identifying witnesses, but you do need that affidavit, okay? And I left a copy with my signer and their representative, but you do need to keep a copy for yourself, just in case anything comes back. You have the affidavit saying you ID'd them. All right, and you have your journal. All right, and then down at the bottom, you're going to write the document title, document date, the number of pages, any other signers. You're going to write capacities claimed by the signer, so that either will be them or whatever this would be. And then I always staple this to the document. I don't give this document to them willy-nilly and say, keep it with it. I staple it. And then there is an acknowledgement loose certificate that you can also use. All right. Now, again, these are optional. This part is optional. You can simply write the credible identifying witness's name in the produced identification section. You're going to write credible identifying witnesses, and then I wrote each person's name and who provided ID, the witnesses who provided the ID. Okay. All right. Let me see. And in my case, some of my documents were two parties, so it was the signer signing and the person taking the assignment. So it was a little bit more complicated than just these two forms. So again, this website is very valuable. I advise you to mark this website as a place to go. Let's see, I will put it on the screen here. notaryfl.com/resources. So that way you can see it. There it is, notaryfl.com/resources. You need to get this and bookmark it, okay? All right. So that is the video for today. I will be back with another video soon. I have other videos to do, but this is the video for today. As always, please comment below if you have any questions. I respond to each and every comment. If you have any other questions, you can reach out to me on Facebook as the Crafty Notary. I do respond to the DMs there as well. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so, and welcome to the family. I do appreciate you being here and being open and willing to learn. And also, like this video. Don't forget the mock signing class is on Sunday. Book club will be next Wednesday. And until then, I'll see you guys later.